Hello folks, this is Paul Woodard for WW2TV. I'm on the side of a road in Slovakia, in this town called Kamenín, and you have the names in Hungarian and Slovakian around here because we're in the Hungarian speaking part of Slovakia. This part of Slovakia was owned by the Hungarians for hundreds of years. And why am I here on this kind of looking at this bit of a road round here? Bit of a bus shelter going on. Well, you'll find out why I'm here as I walk around the corner. Hopefully the connection will stay good enough for this. So there are some stairs. I'm going up those stairs. So my first time here, I haven't been up these steps before. The rest of my group have already gone up, but I'm been waiting to start the stream. Good afternoon, everybody. So we left our accommodation in Hungary this morning, and we have been following with Geoff and Ross guiding us Operation Sudwind. So this is after the siege of Budapest. This is the German attempt to drive east again while the Russians are going west again. And it's a bit foggy today, but over there is the area between the Hron River and then you've got the Danube. So the Danube around here runs east-west and the Huron runs north-south. And between, if those two rivers there make a 90-degree, that is the Operation Sudwind battlefield. Now, because this area was eventually liberated by the Soviets, there's no commemoration whatsoever of the Axis advances, because why would there be? There are no commemorations of the Axis advances in Normandy. It's all about the liberators. So here it's all about the Russians, or more correctly, the Soviet army. So this is a monument. We've come here to see this. If you've seen the graphic for the YouTube show, this is what we're coming to, but this is my image. These are now my live images. Hello, Brian. Hello, History Explorer, Nikki. So we have a T-34 here. I think this is my first ever T-34 in a battlefield setting. Obviously, I've seen them in museums. This is the first I've ever seen in situ in a place where it fought, and it's in the markings of a particular unit. Don't ask me which one. Someone will say which one it is. But you've got the bear there on the side of the turret, and the number 10 and the red star, of course. So this is the T-34, 85 technically, of course. And this is the view out over the battlefield that essentially was contested several times. That's what I'm learning in this, because I come here to learn. And as I said in the earlier video, you tend to think of the Germans not being able to do much after Battle of the Bulge, but they pull units out from there. So I've been following the advance over the last couple of hours of Joachim Peiper. So he had just come out of the Ardennes. He'd been hammering there towards Antwerp there, then pulls back after that. And just, within days, pretty much, he's down here in this part of the world in Central Europe, trying to drive back against the Soviets and the Soviets had got a bridgehead across the Huron River, and Sudwind was basically to try and push the Germans back the Soviets back out of that pocket they'd made over the river. So Joachim Peiper's here, the 12th SS are here. So if Brad is watching this, the same guys that massacred people in Normandy, they've been reconstituted, lots of new troops in there. It's very, very different personnel. It's now General Kraas is the commander of the 12th SS. Kurt Meyer's been wounded and captured. Hubert Meyer is gone. So Kraas is here now. But the 12th SS, these same bastards have been advancing. It's like a 2 corps against 1 corps, Operation Sudwind. So 2 German corps advancing against 1 Soviet. So lots of SS Panzers. We're talking lots of King Tigers here. There was a 503rd Heavy Tank Battalion of Tiger 1s. Jag Panthers in lots of numbers here, and the Soviets have T-34-85s and various other lots of anti-tank screens we've been looking at. So that's the view of the battlefield. But I'm going to take you around the rest of the monument and show you some things. So far so good with the signal. My phone keeps switching from Slovakia to Hungary because we're right near the border. The Danube is the border. So these are the relief stone kind of carvings on the side here, rather like the cemetery this morning. Very very Soviet, very austere, very industrial. So where perhaps Allied monuments to liberators in Normandy have a sense of joy, happiness, it's all a bit stark here, all a bit yeah, industrial. So there's the back of the T-34 there. So it's in pretty good nick. It's in better nick than the Tiger at Vimoutiers in Normandy. It's all been welded up. You can't get in it or anything. Not that we tried, but I've heard that up. And there's the bear painting on the side of the tent. It's still, actually, I'll get closer. It still smells of oil. You can smell all the grease on the bogies, even though it's 78 years since this fort. I assume it's one from the battlefield that's been recovered. Some are pushed into the Danube, as I recall reading. And then there, I move the camera up. There's this kind of tall part of the monument. So yeah, it's not commemorating Operation Sudwind, because I say that's the German offensive. This is commemorating the Soviet response, if you like, to Sudwind. So we're talking late in the war now. This is mid-February towards March 1945. Budapest is now definitely Soviet, but the Germans don't want to give this area up. This area, there's a lot of prestige involved in the Danube, and the city of Budapest they've now lost. But they want to reclaim this bridgehead across the Hron River. And so I'm going to keep on walking around the monument. Hi Phil, hi Stuart, hi Jim. Later today we're going to Bratislava for our next stop. We lose daylight at about 4:20. So I'll just keep taking up the steps, and the view will get a little bit more expansive when I get to the top. We've been doing about, I think yesterday we did 17 kilometers walking. The day before we did about 20. Although we're driving and using public transport, it's like when you're touring around, you just do an incredible amount of walking and an incredible amount of eating. And I wouldn't admit to it, but quite a bit of drinking as well. €2.50 a pint last night. So it would be rude not to, wouldn't it? It'd be rude not to partake. So here, I'll hold the camera a bit level and straight for you for a while. So here is a view of this battlefield. In fact, Geoff's coming up. I might ask Geoff to do a tiny little summary, a summariette of Operation Sudwind for you. You know how good he is. He's coming in now. I didn't tell him I was going to do this, but I'll ask Geoff to just give us a rundown. So we've just been doing Operation Sudwind this morning, and this obviously is commemorating the Soviet, not kind of the response to it, but the liberation later on. But summarize Sudwind, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so behind us is the Hron River, which Woody might have mentioned.
Yep.
Literally down here, quite a major river, and the Sudwind across. We're looking west, and the Soviets held a bridgehead across the Hron River, and the Germans didn't like that and wanted to evict them from across the river, from the bridgehead, and they wanted to destroy the bridgehead. So they used the
Lost connection there for a second, folks. Back again, hopefully.
So yeah, that's the Hron bridgehead. Hopefully you heard what I mentioned already. They brought down the 1st SS Panzer Corps straight after the Ardennes offensive. They gave, for example, Kampfgruppe Hyper new tanks, new Panthers, new Tiger Tiger IIs to destroy this bridgehead. Sometimes now it's called the Hron River now. It was called the Garam River back then, so it's known as the Garam Bridgehead or the Grand Bridgehead in German. So many languages here. Anyway, the quick story is the Germans were very successful. The 1st SS Panzer Corps sliced through the bridgehead about 20 kilometers and evicted about half of there were 2 Soviet corps in the bridgehead. They evicted one of them, and then they had to deal with a much smaller bridgehead, which is basically what we can see behind me. There's a village on the right behind these trees, on your right. Today it's called Kamenín, and that was held by the Soviets still towards the end of Operation Sudwind. Kampfgruppe Piper had to come from the south, which is to your left, and attack from south to north, and attacked Kamenín from the south, exactly this direction. But they were under heavy artillery fire from where we are. The Soviets had huge artillery forces on this hill, so the Germans attacked during the night to negate as much of the Soviet artillery effectiveness as possible. But while their 1st SS and Piper were attacking from the south with his Tiger II heavy tanks in the lead, another German division was attacking from the west towards Kamenín, so from 2 different directions. I believe that was, off the top of my head, I believe that was the 46th Infantry Division. And after a grueling fight of about 24 hours, they took Kamenín. Then there were 2 more, still 2 more Soviet-held villages in this bridgehead, which were then taken out later by the 12th SS Hitlerjugend Division, maybe about 10 kilometers north of where we are as well. So, this spot commemorates, from the Soviet perspective, the hard battle for their bridgehead, and also their subsequent victory in this area as well, because well, just quickly, Operation Sudwind was the last German operational victory of World War II. They had a few successful counterattacks still in the last few months of the war, arguably successful or with limited success. This was still February 45, after the Ardennes, but a few months before the end of the World War II, and they successfully managed to evict the Soviets from this bridgehead. It was a very limited objective, but they achieved it. But later on, about a month later, 6 weeks later, maximum, this was also the start of what was called the Soviet Bratislava-Brno offensive, where they had a very large offensive westerly to Bratislava and Brno on this side of the Danube. The Danube is not far from where we are right now, and that was at the same time as the Vienna offensive on the south side of the Danube, and these offensives were unstoppable, and they got all the way. They took Vienna only in April 45. So limited success, didn't last long for the Germans, as expected at that late in the war, and the Soviet army was just too strong.
Thanks, Geoff. So as you're saying in the comments about attack, counterattack, that's what is rather muddy about the situation, is that there's both going on at the same time. So which is the attack, which is the counterattack? The Soviets are sending in offensives, and so are the Germans, and then they respond to them. So attack becomes a counterattack, then a counterattack becomes a counterattack. That's what I'm learning, as I said earlier, about this campaign. It's quite not neat in how it defines itself, until, as Geoff just said, you get to a bit later on, it's just overwhelmingly Red Army pushing on, because numbers count, their experience counts. The Germans have been committing the last of their oil, the last of their reserves, and not just here, of course, everywhere else in the Third Reich is collapsing. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Well, not more. It's more than quite interesting. It's fascinating to be here on this last gasp effort. And I'm sure some of you watching this kind of think of the last gasp as being the Battle of the Bulge. And as we talked about with Operation Conrad, that's happening at the same time as the Ardennes offensive. This is happening just after the Ardennes offensive. So yeah, the Ardennes is the last German advance offensive in the West, but it's not the last advance of World War II.
Yeah, and then Sudwind was in February 45, and then a few weeks later they had their genuine last strategic offensive operation, Spring Awakening, otherwise known as the Balaton Offensive, in Hungary, about 100 kilometers south of where we are. So Sudwind was not even the last German offensive. It was a small one, but the last strategic offensive was Spring Awakening, which ended up in more or less a disaster.
This is the last one that you could count as a success.
Yes.
Limited success, though, as is always the case.
Yes.
Right, thanks, Geoff. I'll finish up. So there we are, folks. Hope you enjoyed that. It was sorry for delaying it a couple of times. We're just driving around the battlefield and it gets a bit complicated. But yeah, I will see you all again next time. It's Paul Woodhouse for World War II TV saying enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.